Good morning. And our opening hymn, number 34 in the Gray Hymnal, Though I May Speak with Bravest Fire. Anything you want to say? No. Okay. Please rise if you're willing and able. I'm your worship leader this morning. So ours is a welcoming community where we find connection and meaning, a sharing community where our joys are amplified, a caring community where our sorrows are lessened. We also welcome guests from Facebook Live and our Zoom audience. We welcome everyone, regardless of race, creed, color, social level, economic status, gender identity, whom you love. All are welcome here. Do we have any visitors this morning? Any visitors out there, Molly?
Not today.
Thank you. Any church announcements this morning? Yep. I know of at least two. I saw them try to stand.
Good morning. I'm up here because Sharon is still recuperating from her foot operation, her ankle operation. She's doing great. She's back in a boot. She can put weight on it, so she's very happy. We had a very good Friends Night Out on Friday at China Bistro. We had 15 people, so that was fun. But for next month, for May, we're not going to have an actual Friends Night Out. But on May 6th, which is a Saturday here at the church, we're having a lasagna bake-off between Chris and Lorna's Lasagnas. So that'll be good. So we're going to need, it'll be in the announcements, but we'll need RSVPs so they know how much lasagna to bake, and then everybody else will be asked to bring like a salad or a side dish and a dessert. So that's Saturday, May 6th. So you can start gearing up for that. And I think that's it. Thanks.
I'd like to thank you all for picking me as the winner of the lasagna bake-off in advance. So, okay. Yes, mail-in ballots. This Friday is the third Friday spaghetti dinner at UCS. We have enough people that have signed up already, so thank you all for doing that. And as you know, this is our third week of stewardship drive. It's the time that we get out our begging bowl. David has to prepare the budget, so we need to know in advance how much money we're going to have to operate for the next fiscal year, which starts July 1st. So we've talked about we being a faithful, hopeful, and loving congregation. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about being faithful. Last week was hopeful, and this week we're talking about being loving. So we ask the Spirit of life, plant a seed of genuine love and harmony in our hearts. Let us not rest until we have contributed to the needs of others and showed hospitality to all the strangers we meet. Help us leave behind dislike and bitterness. Let us have a spirit of fellowship by honoring our neighbor and loving one another with mutual affection. May our acts of stewardship strengthen the life and love of this church. So if you have not gotten in your pledge form, we ask that you do that. Thank you.
Any other church announcements? I see someone approaching, so there must be one.
Unity Church had reached a point where they felt they could no longer support keeping a building, and they put it on the market, and it sold. And they have worked with us. They are going to be sharing space with us, renting space from us. I believe they're going to have Sunday evening services. They're still working out the details of that. They will have some programs here during the week. They're going to have a desk in the office, that desk that used to just collect everything that nobody knew what to do with is now going to be Unity's desk. So don't put anything on that desk anymore unless it's for Unity. You will see some more people in and around. The big move is Thursday morning, and they will be using the back room of the Chalice House to store some of their things. They're actually replacing our chairs with the ones that they have. There's a sample out in the lobby under the window to the office. Just letting you know the change is happening. If there are rough spots, please talk to a board member so that we can work it out and not just, I don't want everybody calling them with problems. I want us to go through the board and deal with it that way. Also, this means that the church building is going to be used more. Now, Lindsay, our office administrator, finally figured out why the calendar on our website wasn't working, and she's got it fixed and working now. So if you go to our website and look at the calendar of events, it will now show you our events, and Unity's events are also on there because the building won't be available while they're having events here. That means our folks are going to need to remember to check the calendar before they schedule something. And when they do schedule something, let Lindsay know so she can get it on the calendar. That includes committee meetings, and if you're having a work day to clean up a place or anything, just make sure it gets on the calendar. I think that's all. Trying not to sound like a nag, but things are a little different, and it's great that we're going to be busier and the building will be in use and people will be coming in. But there are bound to be a few rough spots too, and bring those to the board, please.
Thank you. That's it for announcements. Each week, we spend a few moments stepping across the aisle to greet and welcome each other this fine day. Please join in, and I will ding the dong when it's time to come back. Very nice to meet you. Right now? Okay, because we got music to do, so you go for it.
Okay, so my service at the end of the month, that's going to be on Beltane or the approaching summer. If someone would volunteer to read the story, that would be great.
Okay. She's one of our other worship leaders. As usual, beautifully done. Thank you, Bill. So as we light our chalice, may I have a volunteer? It's pre-dipped and ready to go. Well, we light this chalice to motivate us to do something, no matter how small or simple. We light this chalice for the joy and health that we have in our lives, for the hope of the future, and in gratitude for those who were present at this Latin American gathering. I'm reading the wrong one. Let this flame symbolize the divine spark of light embedded in all living beings. May its flame lead us to greater knowledge and tolerance. May its warmth lead us to deeper love and compassion, and may its light lead us toward greater wisdom and understanding. Yes, each of us is but a tiny flame, but together we can enlighten this world. Far too often, we are forced to confront the terrible things that people can do to each other. When these things happen, all we can do is come together in places like this church to remind ourselves that there is still hope. There is still love. There is still good-hearted people who can look unblinkingly into the storm and continue to believe a calm, bright morning will come. I'm, of course, talking about the overall political fiasco we're currently living through. This community is a refuge where we can keep the ember of hope alive when all the world seems intent on dousing it, and then we can use our little ember to light a beacon for the rest of the world. Our offerings each week sustain this community so we can share our small embers to light a dark world. Please just give generously so that we can all together help spread that light. May I have 2 ushers for volunteers, please? Or 2 volunteers, your ushers. Plate chair. Anybody know where the plate chair is going today?
United Nations.
Thank you. Plate chair is going to the UU United Organization. It's helping. Thank you, David. So the theory was that there would be a children's story today, and I went to the library and I just couldn't find anything. So we are without children's story for all ages today, I'm sorry to say. The opening words actually come from Tom Moore and the book The Life of Meaning, taught by Bob Abernathy and William Boyle. We become more human as we discover we are able to love people. And when we say, I love people, I mean to see their value and their beauty, to love people who have been pushed aside, humiliating, seen as having no value. Then we see that they are gradually being changed. At the same time, sharing our lives in community with the weak and the poor, we come in touch with our limits, pain, and brokenness. We realize that we, too, have our handicaps, which are often around our need for power and the feeling that our value lies in being powerful, a power that frequently involves crushing other people. So we're confronted by 2 visions of society, a vision of the pyramid, where you have to have more and more power in order to get to the top, or a vision of a body where every person has a place. We take a few moments each week to reflect on our joys and our sorrows and to acknowledge the mutual support of our community.
Brandon Lambright.
Thank you, Solomon. Are there any others? Okay. If there are no others, I will put a single pebble in the water to acknowledge those sorrows that may be too dear to share at this time. So each week we take a few moments to sit quietly, to meditate, to center within ourselves, knowledgeable about our own energy is, as I've mentioned, quite large, much larger than our physical bodies. Within a couple of moments, come back out and we'll sing number 123, Spirit of Life. Spirit of life, come unto me. In my heart, make thee a comfort. In the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, every life, the shape of comfort. Set me free, Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Now our speaker this morning, Shelbie Aubrey.
Hello. I just want to first say thank you for having me. It's really nice to walk in somewhere and just feel like it's very inclusive, to see a pride flag outside, just to even know this exists. So how many of you are familiar with the House of Bread and Peace? No, we had a couple. Yeah. So for those of you who are not familiar with us, the House of Bread and Peace is a homeless shelter for women and children who are experiencing homelessness. So we're a little different than other shelters in that instead of more institutional setting, we're actually a 15-bedroom home, and we're located on East Chandler Avenue in Evansville. I'm going to give you a little bit of background on kind of how we got started. In 1980, Sister Joanna Trainer, she was a retired school teacher in the Catholic schools for 34 years, and she kind of saw this need. There was no other shelters for women and children. However, we did have shelters for men, and she was like, I'm not a big fan of that. I think we need to have services for women. And so she started moving people into her home. And a couple years of doing that, people were like, maybe we should build her a bigger house so she can move in more people into her home. So they ended up building the house on Chandler Avenue. It's a really beautiful home. She lived inside the home with women and children experiencing homelessness for 21 years. And when she retired from doing that, she kind of still ran it from the sidelines. So every month we serve anywhere between 25 to 40 women and children Right now, we have 33 people, including a newborn. So we just had a baby join us this week. Her name's Nova. She's very cute. We have a lot of kids right now. So we had a pretty interesting Easter last weekend with having 14 children. It was a good time. So it's really nice to be able to offer this type of service to women and children. We are privately funded, so we don't have to go by a lot of guidelines that some other shelters do. So one I'm really talking about is a 45-day length stay. We don't have to follow that. We allow people to come in and choose their own healing path. I'll give you a little story regarding that. We had a woman who came in, and at some other places, you are required to do intake upon coming in. You have to kind of spill your whole story. We allow women to decide that for themselves when they want to share their experience with someone. It is not a requirement. We don't tell people to be here. You have to tell us what happened to you. That's up to them to decide if they're ready and when they're ready to share that with us. So we had a young lady come in, and she told us her name was Beyonce, and we were like, all right. About a month later, Beyonce really was struggling with mental illness. She was struggling with acute psychosis related to an assault she experienced. And so we were not forcing any kind of rapport building upon her, but we do give people a place and a space to heal from the wounds that happen specifically to women who are maybe living on the streets. So Beyonce was actually able to take some time, heal from her wounds. She eventually did tell us her real name, which was nice. And she also was able to share that she had experienced a pretty significant assault while living on the streets. Are any of you familiar with Aurora? Yes, okay. So the reason I bring Aurora up is that when people don't have an opportunity for a shelter bed, we do have camps in Evansville, which I think a lot of people find surprising. So we have quite a few individuals who live outside, and that is where Beyonce was prior to coming to the House of Bread and Peace. And after she came to us, she was able to report the assault that happened to her while she was living outside. She was able to begin the healing process. And I think it's important that we do allow people to stay more than 45 days. We don't actually have a time limit. We say 6 months, but we're really individual case by case basis. You can't really put a timeline on healing from that kind of trauma. So she's able to just kind of start that process. And I'm a little biased, but we're kind of the best place ever. It's just amazing. I think if any of you would come in there, you would totally agree. So it's just, you walk in and you feel like you have this space, regardless if you're a person that's volunteering or a person that's coming to stay with us. It's just a place of peace and love and support and community. We have people who move out who still come just to hang out, because it really is just this place of community for women and children to just be themselves and not to feel pressured to leave during the day. Many shelters do actually close during the day, which is often due to lack of funding. So we are in a unique position because the House of Bread and Peace is the only thing we really have to pay for is somebody to be there. So with that, we are able to provide that place to be during the day. So they don't have to go on the streets. They don't have to go sit outside and wait for a place to open. It just is really a unique opportunity for people to just be who they are. So with that, did any of you see on the news about the flood we experienced? We had a pretty significant issue with water damage inside the house. I left town for 17 hours and I did not have signal. When I came back, phone was going off. The whole house, the kitchen and dining room we had about 3 feet of standing water. Yeah, so we actually had to move people out. The community really rallied together for this. The Ozanam Family Shelter, various places came together because we had to relocate all 30 people. We had 29 people at that time, and we had to kind of relocate them. This is pretty traumatic when you're experiencing homelessness and then you don't know if the shelter you're at is going to be opening or not. So it was really great to have that kind of community support. They were gone for 5 days, and we moved them back in without doing any repairs to the House of Bread and Peace. We are waiting on contractors to get their stuff together for us. Unfortunately, the flood happened right after a pretty big storm here, so everybody's very busy, and a lot of places have more money than a homeless shelter, so we're very low on their priority list. but we were able to turn the toilets back on, so we don't have anyone using buckets, which is really great. So I'm glad we were able to move everyone back in, but it is still pretty traumatic for people to have to think like, nothing has been fixed yet. So the likelihood of, we've had quite a few plumbing issues since then as well. Just this past Friday, we had some toilets that were down, but even with that, we still have here for women and children. We also have a kitchen that is open 24/7. So people are allowed to eat at 2 a.m. if that's what they choose to do. And they do choose that, I will tell you, pretty often. So we are also cleaning the kitchen at 2 or 3 a.m. That's okay. Yeah. The other unique thing about us is that we take both single women and women with children. So pretty big population that's really lacking in support is women experiencing mental illness who maybe don't have children. We do have a tendency to prioritize children, which makes sense. At the same time, women experiencing homelessness and mental illness at the same time who are on the streets are at a very vulnerable position in our community. For things like assaults, for things like just being taken advantage of, and just being out in the elements, for one, can be incredibly dangerous. So the fact that we're able to bring these two very unique groups of people together, because they have different needs, they have different things that they could use to thrive in their personal lives. So being able to bring them together is really nice, and you get to see that community again. You see moms with kids supporting a woman with schizophrenia and just being inclusive, teaching their children to be inclusive. So I think it's important to remember that even if these women and children are experiencing difficulties, the love and the community that we get to experience at the house it's amazing to see. It really is. I think that's all I have. Do you guys have any? That's great. We're gonna leave that up to the person and not put kind of false timelines on healing. I saw your hand up as well.
If people ask questions from here, can you repeat the questions?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, his question was how long a typical timeline can someone stay? Yes.
Do you provide like childcare services and things for like women who have kids that are trying to get jobs?
So we don't have a childcare center. Oh, sorry. Do we provide childcare for people who are staying there? And the answer to that is we do not have childcare on site, but we do have advocates who will watch people's children. We have babysitting agreements, or it's what they're called. So we just have people that'll sign up. They're also allowed to ask other individuals who are staying with us to watch their children. Just like if you think about a neighbor, you may ask to help with your children. But in order to have like a babysitting center, we have to have lots of different documents and paperwork and all of that stuff. We do partner with Art Crisis Center, so we are able to take children over there if mom has a job that she's maybe going to, but we don't. That would be something I'd like to get in the future, though. I also, yes.
Yes, you mentioned earlier about volunteers coming in. What sort of jobs do volunteers do?
Yes, we have volunteers that do all kinds of stuff. So if you think about anything that you would need done in your house, you just bring that over to the House of Bread and Peace, whatever your skills may be. We have laundry, we have cleaning, we have lawn mowing, which I did not even think about until someone called me and they were like, are you going to get someone to mow the grass? I was like, that might be important. So it was getting a little long. So really anything, we have a lot of things break. If we have 4 bathrooms, we have 33 people, so plus staff that are in and out pretty frequently. We also have some mothers that get their children only on the weekends. So on the weekends, we might have that number closer to 40. Lots of kids. We do weekend sleepovers in the living room downstairs. It's a madhouse in there. Well, right now, we have a bunch of 6-year-olds and a bunch of teenagers. So it's very interesting, the kind of things we're seeing. Yes.
One of the questions online is what kind of donations do you need? Do you need hygiene products or what?
Absolutely. Right now, there's actually like a mass shortage of deodorant at all the shelters. And so I just want to talk about Albion for just a minute because they are also out of deodorant. So if you're interested in donating deodorant, the House of Bread and Peace and Albion could use some of that. And we do kind of work together. So I took them some deodorant on Friday, but now I'm like, well, we're going to be out too. So hygiene products are a really big one that we need. Paper towels. We've been out of paper towels since Wednesday. We could definitely use some paper towels. Toilet paper is always a really big one that goes pretty quickly. It's like one day you'll have a room full and the next day you have none. It's pretty amazing. We actually need a new Swiffer. That's a really big one too. Those, as you can imagine, in a big house with so many people, those get broken pretty frequently. We also try to teach the children how to clean, and that sometimes leads to broken Swiffers or angry children. So yeah, really anything that you would use in your own house, we go through that stuff very quickly.
I mean, you got a really great space there. I've been there, but, and you're right, I mean, there must be untold needs all over the place, in the yard, in the house. Do you encourage the residents of to participate in keeping up the place, and how do you do that?
Absolutely. Oh, do we encourage residents to participate in the upkeep of the house? And the answer to that is absolutely. A lot of that doesn't even take encouragement. So the person that we had that was mowing our grass, she was a resident at the House of Bread and Peace for 3 years, and she has been mowing the grass since she moved out, which I did not know. I started at the House of Bread and Peace in January, so this is my first time having to get someone to mow the grass. So she actually will be coming back every month. And we see that a lot. People that have been to the house, they come back. They want to volunteer. They want to be an active participant. And even the people who are there, they're staying there. They want a clean environment for themselves and for their children. They will go into each other's rooms if somebody's having a really big difficulty with their mental health that's making it hard for them to clean or making it hard for them to do their laundry. They support each other. So I think a lot of times we see all the women, specifically, a lot of not supporting one another, and that is just not an issue that we see at the house very often. There's a lot of support, a lot of uplifting of one another, and it's pretty great. Yeah. Yes.
Someone online wants to know how you can share how you got involved in this network.
Yes, absolutely. So I was a case manager with Aurora for several years. I worked with individuals coming out of incarceration who are experiencing homelessness, and it made me really mad because there was so many systemic issues within the prison system, and I just felt really called to go do something more. So I went and got my master's, and then I was a child and adolescent therapist. And there's a lot of issues everywhere. And working with children and adolescents, I saw a lot of that too. I really missed homeless services, so I was at the Central Library where my friend and I, who works at Aurora still, were planning a group for people who are getting housed. We see a lot, people when they get housed, they don't have this sense of community anymore. You go from living with your friends to living by yourself, and at the same time knowing that your friends are maybe on the streets or still in a shelter. So we see a lot of people who lose their housing opportunities because of that isolation. So Carrie and I, that's my friend from Aurora, were planning a group for individuals that were getting housed to kind of eliminate some of that. And we saw this job And she was like, you should apply for that. And I was like, okay. And I did. And I spelled peace wrong. I know how to spell peace, but I spelled it P-A-S-E. I still got the job. So luckily they kind of forgave me for that one. But yeah, that's how I got involved with the House of Bread and Peace. It's a very magical place. So I was really not thinking I was going to get it. I'm very glad. It is really my dream job. And I am very blessed to be able to be in this position. I love what I do. So yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
Do you have resources to help your clients with an ID card?
Do we have resources for driver's license or ID? We do. So we have 2 vans. We're able to take people to the BMV. We just got another one donated in January. So as long as we have gas money that week, we do take people there. We also partner with Aurora, who they do weekly BMV trips on Tuesdays. So they will take people to get the IDs. And we do not have to worry about having the 2 pieces of mail, which is really great. We are able to write a letter saying that they are a resident at the House of Bread and Peace and that they can use our address so that they can receive mail. And then, as I'm sure all of you know, getting an ID is like step number 1 in getting any other type of service or employment or childcare or any of those other things. So that is a really great question. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
First of all, thank you. What about beyond economic factors, what you earn, what housing costs, and things like that may affect
Other factors than employment that affect whether someone's housed or not?
just the economic, I mean, what jobs pay, what housing costs, what if you're renting a place and the landlord thinks they will get you, that they sell a house or the market up, and so all of a sudden you got homeless or family with 3 kids that have to find a place and now rent's higher and all this stuff.
Yeah, that's a really good one too, that we're seeing a lot of that right now. We have people that come in, and actually we've had several that get approved for a voucher called rapid rehousing. This is a voucher that pays for a deposit and maybe 3 months rent. And we have people that have to turn that down because after 3 months, they're not going to be able to afford the housing unit that they're going into. And these are oftentimes, this is the lowest amount of rent you can pay. So they have to turn this down and wait for a different type of voucher, which can take a very long time to get a voucher. I don't know how many of you are familiar with housing vouchers and how they kind of work. They're really not great. They really take a long time, and it's great when you get them, but the waiting process can be 2 to 3, 4 years, depending on how many people we have. And currently we have a pretty terrifying trend occurring in Evansville for specifically women. And this is not just at the house. This is at Albion. This is at all of the shelters, as well as just seeing a number of people increase in street homelessness. So during COVID, we had the evictions hold where we did not evict people. And this is what we're kind of seeing now, is that we have landlords who are getting rent paid by tenants. So tenants were still paying. The landlords were not paying their mortgage on their properties. So now, a few years later, we don't have any of these protections in place. So when these women have been paying their rent, and all of a sudden they're faced with homelessness because their landlords are losing their properties. And this is really terrifying. You see a lot of chronic homelessness or people who have experienced several episodes of homelessness. We have a unique and new population of people experiencing this, people who've never experienced homelessness before, people who have had employment, who have just been through this really difficult time and are getting evicted. And it's kind of shocking because they're like, your landlord's losing their property, you have 15 days to be out. And now we're faced with where do we go? So the House of Bread and Peace was technically, we weren't supposed to accept people during our construction, but they let me answer the phone. And so we didn't actually stop taking people because there's such a high need. It is hard to turn people away. Between the 27th and the 7th of April, the House of Bread and Peace turned away 47 individual women, and that is just not including any children. Those are just women. At the same time, and between those same dates at Albion, they turned away 51. Now, some of these people could have been the same, calling both shelters, but that is a pretty alarming amount of people to have absolutely no shelter options in just about a 10-day period of time. So that is a pretty scary trend that we're seeing right now. And the need to kind of bring awareness to the unique experience of women who are experiencing homelessness. Thank you. Any other? Yes. That's okay.
How do you determine like which families to take in first?
That's a really hard one. So we don't, how do we pick which women to take? So how do we prioritize who to take? The answer to that is we currently don't typically keep a list. What we do is a first come, first served basis. So let's say we have a woman who moves out. Person day full. Somebody we were full like 15 minutes later. It's very quick, and we really just don't ever have openings, which is unfortunate. I have put people on the couch before, which we're not technically supposed to do, but we have a couch. People need a place to stay. Yeah. So, and that's the same with Albion as well. They're first come, first served too. There's just really not a great way to prioritize, because at the end of the day, you still have to turn people away, which is really hard. Thank you for that question. Yes. So there's no wait list? We do not have a wait list. We don't. If we have two people call at the same time, this is the other thing. We have case managers or social workers who will like, hey, I just got someone housed for you. I know this other person that needs a shelter bed. So we have a lot of social workers that are fantastic advocates for people. But at the same time, then we have other people who are like, but I talked to this lady who really needs to get in. So that can be a really hard one, actually, because you might be taking one person off the streets, and at the same time, you know, there's 35 more who need somewhere to go, and you just can't provide that for everyone, unfortunately. Yes.
So there's no current database of like what's available on the various shelters in the community?
There's no database on where other people are in the community. The answer is no, but there should be. And we have Indiana 211, and that's kind of what their job is a little bit. But so like at the domestic violence shelters, they are not allowed to announce how many beds they have open or how many people are there. And we have one domestic violence shelter. We're the only shelter that takes women and women with children. And then we have Ruth's House. They open at 5 p.m. They're really great. You guys mentioned UCS, so I think that's awesome. There's just really no way to collaborate between everyone. I've been thinking about maybe like starting a meeting or something, like a weekly meeting between all the different shelters, but currently we don't have a way to kind of process all of that. Now, we all use the same like notation system, so we can see like, has this person received a service before? Can I collaborate with their former social worker? But we don't have a way to do that in prioritized shelter beds. Yeah. Any other questions or concerns? Yes.
So when I first heard about this, it was Sister Joanna.
Okay, that's a great question. When she first heard about this, it was Sister Joanna's House of Bread and Peace. So yes, it started with Sister Joanna, and we've never turned people away because of their religious beliefs. I never got to meet Sister Joanna, but we are actually right now in the process of moving to a trauma-informed design approach, as well as a trauma-informed just modality with the way we use our services. We don't turn people away because of their religion. We are not affiliated with the Catholic Church. We don't have any affiliation with any religious entity. We do honor Sister Joanna because she is pretty amazing, and the fact that she's lived with homeless women and children for 21 years. But we don't turn people away, and we are in the process of removing all of our religious decor. And the reason for that is we don't know if somebody has a religious trauma. We don't know if somebody has experienced something that could re-traumatize them. And we want to be inclusive to everyone and make sure that people feel welcome when they're there, regardless of their specific religious beliefs. Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, well done. Thank you. Good questions too, and comments. So now our closing hymn is number 1053, How Could Anyone? And stand, please, if you're willing and able.
This is pretty short, so we'll go through it.
10:53. Yeah. Could anyone ever tell you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice you've always a miracle? To my soul. Thank you. Now we extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth. In our hearts until we are together again. And the closing words are something I've commented before. This is the Lord's Prayer translated from Arabic directly into English, rather than the original version, which is from Aramaic to Greek to Latin to English. So it's quite different. O cosmic birther of all radiance and vibration, soften the ground of our being and carve out a place within us where your presence can abide. Fill us with your creativity so we may be empowered to bear the fruit of your mission. Let each of our actions bear fruit in accordance with our desire. Endow us with the wisdom to produce and share what each being needs to grow and flourish. Untie the tangled threads of destiny that bind us as we release others from the entanglement of past mistakes. Do not let us be seduced by that which would divert us from our true purpose, but illuminate the opportunities of the present moment. For you are the ground and the fruitless vision, the birth, power, and fulfillment, as all is gathered and made whole again, and so it is. And go in peace and light, and may your being bless the world.